Imagine living two completely different lives, every single day. In Iran, that's the reality for millions of people. There's the life you live in public, under the constant watch of a very strict government, and then there's the life you live in private, behind closed doors. So today, we're going to go way beyond the usual headlines and take a look at this national double life to try and understand what it's really like for the 85 million people who call Iran home.
And this, right here, is the core of the whole story in modern Iran. You've got this incredibly young, super tech-savvy population on one side, but on the other, you have one of the most conservative regimes in the entire world. It's this massive clash that forces millions of people to juggle two separate identities, who they are in public and who they are in private. It's the story of a nationwide double life.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this whole double life thing, we first have to peel back some layers and look past the headlines. Let's clear up some of the most common myths about the country first.
Let me ask you, when you hear the word Iran, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of us in the West, it probably conjures up images of, huge sandy deserts, or maybe this idea of a single, uniform culture. But the reality is so much more diverse and, honestly, way more surprising than you'd think.
And this right here starts to paint a very different picture. First off, and this is a big one, Iran is a Persian culture, not Arab. They have their own unique language, Farsi. It's also an economic heavyweight, sitting on a tenth of the world's oil. But, get this, it's also a huge exporter of pistachios. And yep, it gave the world the Persian cat. But at its core is that massive youth population, with huge, sprawling cities like Tehran.
So, with that in mind, how does all this tension actually play out on the streets in everyday life? To really get the double life, we have to start with the official rules, the ones that govern society. This is the public face of Iran.
A key part of state control is the morality police. Now, this is a dedicated force with both men and women as officers, and they patrol public areas, a lot of the time in plain clothes. Their whole job is to make sure people, especially women, are following the strict Islamic dress code and rules of behavior.
And you can see just how fast things can get serious. An encounter could start with just a simple warning, maybe for a hijab that's considered a little too loose. But from there, it can quickly escalate to being taken to a station for a morality lesson, having your family called in to vouch for you, and getting a permanent record. And if it happens again, well, the consequences can get really severe, including punishments like public floggings.
And the thing is, the state's control goes way beyond just what you're wearing. Access to the outside world, to different cultures, is super restricted. Social media platforms like Instagram and websites like YouTube, officially banned. Satellite TV, also banned. And things that are totally normal in other parts of the world, like drinking alcohol or women singing in public, are all forbidden. Heck, even wearing a Western-style tie can get you in trouble as a symbol of capitalism.
So now we get to the real heart of it. Because for every single public rule, there's a private reality. This is the great Iranian divide. It's the reason so many people are forced to live this double life.
And this divide isn't just an idea. You can literally see it on a map of the capital city. North Tehran, that's the wealthier, more modern, more liberal part of town. You'll see women there wearing their hijabs a bit more loosely, a small but really significant act of defiance. But if you travel down to the poorer, more traditional South Tehran, the whole atmosphere changes. The rules are much more strictly enforced, and the government's ideology is way stronger.
And what this all boils down to is something pretty powerful. In a country where speaking out can be incredibly dangerous, even the smallest choices you make become a form of protest. The way a woman wears her headscarf or how much makeup she puts on, it's not just about fashion. It's a quiet political statement about who she is and her resistance to the rules.
And this slide right here, this is where that double life really comes alive. In public, people follow the rules, but behind the closed doors of their homes, a whole other world opens up. They use VPNs to get around internet censorship and onto social media. They organize secret parties with music and dancing, keeping the volume just low enough so the neighbors don't report them. And since alcohol is banned, there's this huge culture of brewing your own in basements all over the country.
And right at the very center of this whole struggle, this push and pull between public and private, we find what might be the biggest contradiction in Iran, the status and role of women. So on paper, Iranian women do have certain rights. They're actually very highly educated, they're a big part of the workforce, and they can even hold positions in government. But the reality on the ground? It's a completely different story. A husband has the legal right to stop his wife from working, or even from leaving the country. And even though they work side by side with men, on public buses, they're separated by metal bars.
And just let this number sink in for a second. 13. A girl can be legally married at 13 years old. For so many, this means the end of her school, the end of her childhood, really. She's forced to become a wife and a mother when she's still a child herself.
And this detail right here, it just shows you the quiet, desperate acts of defiance that families will take. See, the hijab becomes mandatory for girls as soon as they start menstruation. So to give their daughters just a few more years of freedom, a few more years of being a kid, some parents will actually lie to the authorities about their daughter's real age.
So this all leads us to a nation that's just full of these deep contradictions, where some of the official rules, well, they seem to defy all logic, and they really highlight the surreal reality that's woven into Iranian society.
I mean, here's a shocking question for you. What is the price of a human life in Iran?
Believe it or not, in Iran's legal system, that question has a real, tangible answer. There's a practice called diya, or blood money. If someone confesses to murder, they can literally negotiate a price with the victim's family. And if the family agrees to take the money, the confessed murderer can actually avoid prison. Justice, in this sense, can be bought.
And to put that into some really jarring economic context, the source material we're looking at mentions a hypothetical payment of 1 million Iranian rials. At the time of that source, that sum was equivalent to just 22 euros. It just highlights the kind of desperation that might lead a family to accept a deal like that.
And if you think that's wild, get ready for what might be the most baffling paradox of them all. The Iranian state legally allows, and even helps pay for, sex reassignment surgery. It officially recognizes a person's desire to change their gender. Yet, in that exact same legal system, a consensual relationship between two people of the same sex is a crime punishable by death, often by public hanging.
So really, it all comes down to this one big question. When a whole country is forced to live a double life, balancing what they have to do in public with who they really are in private, how long can that possibly last? The desire for basic freedom, for joy, it's a powerful, powerful force. The real question for Iran's future is whether a system that's built on suppressing that very human need can actually survive forever.